The fluorescent lights of the Willow Creek Mall buzzed like a trapped wasp, flickering just enough to make Caleb's pulse race. He stood outside the fitting room of Harper's Threads, clutching a pile of shirts he didn't need, his heart hammering for reasons he couldn't name. Then he saw him, Jasper, all sharp jawline and quiet fire, leaning against the wall like he owned the place. Caleb had never been good at hiding. Growing up in Willow Creek, a sleepy Ohio town where everyone knew your business before you did, he'd learned to keep his head down. At 22, he was still the kid who'd been caught kissing Tommy Alvarez behind the bleachers in 10th grade. The kid whose parents had prayed the phase out of him every Sunday since. But Jasper was new. A transplant from Chicago with a leather jacket and a smirk that could unravel anyone. He'd only been in town a month, working at the record store across the mall, and already he was a mystery Caleb couldn't stop chasing. You gonna try those on, or just hug them all day? Jasper's voice cut through the hum of the mall, low and teasing. His green eyes flicked to the stack of clothes in Caleb's arms, then back to his face, lingering just long enough to make Caleb's cheeks burn. You. Yeah. Just picking stuff, Caleb stammered, cursing himself for sounding like a nervous teenager. He wasn't even sure why he was here. He'd wandered into Harper's Threads on a whim, drawn by the sale signs and maybe, just maybe, by the rumor that Jasper sometimes hung out here after his shift. Jasper pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them in 2 easy strides. Mind if I join you? I need a new shirt, and you look like you could use some guidance. His lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close enough to make Caleb's stomach flip. Join me. Caleb's voice cracked. Like, in the fitting room. Jasper raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. Unless you're scared of sharing a mirror. Caleb swallowed hard, his grip tightening on the clothes. He wasn't scared. He was terrified. But something about Jasper's steady gaze, the way it held him without judgment, made him nod. Sure. Why not? The fitting room was a cramped box with a chipped mirror and a curtain that didn't quite close. Caleb hung his shirts on the hook, hyper-aware of Jasper's presence behind him. The air felt thick, charged, like the moment before a storm. Jasper tossed his jacket on the bench and started unbuttoning his shirt, his movements casual but deliberate. Caleb tried not to stare, but his eyes betrayed him, catching glimpses of smooth skin and the faint outline of a tattoo peeking from Jasper's collarbone. So, Jasper said, breaking the silence as he slipped on a dark blue button-up. What's your deal? Caleb, you don't strike me as the type to spend Saturday nights shopping for flannel. Caleb laughed, the sound more nervous than he intended. I don't know. Just needed a change, I guess. He fumbled with a green t-shirt, pretending to inspect it. What about you? You don't exactly scream small-town Ohio. Jasper's smile was slow, almost dangerous. I don't scream anything. I'm just passing through. Got tired of Chicago's noise. Thought I'd try quiet for a while. He turned to the mirror, adjusting his collar. But quiet's got its own kind of loud, doesn't it? Caleb didn't know how to answer that. He knew the loudness Jasper meant the whispers in church, the sideways glances at the diner, the weight of a town that loved you, but only if you fit its mold. He'd felt it his whole life, a pressure that made his chest ache. But standing here, inches from Jasper, he felt something else too. Something reckless. Try this one, Jasper said, tossing a black Henley at him. Their fingers brushed as Caleb caught it, and the contact sent a jolt through him. It'll look good on you. Caleb hesitated, then pulled off his own shirt, hyper-aware of Jasper's eyes on him. He wasn't built like Jasperno tattoos. No effortless cool. Just a lanky frame and a scar on his shoulder from a bike crash when he was 12. He slipped the Henley on, the fabric soft against his skin, and turned to the mirror. Jasper was right, it did look good. Not bad, Jasper said, stepping closer. His voice was softer now, almost intimate. You should keep it. Caleb met his gaze in the mirror, and for a moment, the world outside the fitting room didn't exist. It was just them, two strangers who weren't strangers anymore, standing too close in a space too small. Caleb's breath hitched, and he saw something flicker in Jasper's eyes, something raw, unguarded. Then Jasper dropped to his knees. Caleb froze, his heart slamming against his ribs. Jasper wasn't looking at him. Not exactly. He was reaching for something on the floor, a button that had fallen from Caleb's discarded shirt. But the moment stretched, heavy with meaning, and Caleb's mind raced with possibilities he wasn't ready to name. Got it, Jasper said, holding up the button, his voice steady but his eyes searching. He stood slowly, closer now, close enough that Caleb could feel the heat of him. You okay? Caleb nodded, though he wasn't sure he was. Yeah. Just didn't expect that. Jasper's lips quirked, but there was no mockery in it. You're gonna have to get used to surprises if you're hanging out with me. The curtain rustled, and a store clerk's voice broke the spell. Everything okay in there? Caleb jumped, his face flushing. Yeah, we're good, he called, his voice too loud. Jasper chuckled, stepping back, and the moment slipped away like sand through fingers. But as they left the fitting room, Caleb carrying the black Henley and Jasper still holding that damn button, Caleb knew something had shifted. He didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But he knew he'd follow Jasper anywhere to find out. The mall's food court smelled of greasy fries and regret. But Caleb barely noticed. He sat across from Jasper at a wobbly table, a half-eaten pretzel between them, his mind still stuck in that fitting room. Jasper's knee had brushed his under the table twice now, and each time, Caleb's heart did a stupid little flip. So, Jasper said, leaning back in his chair, one arm slung casually over the back. You never answered my question. What's your deal? You've got this vibe, like you're running from something. Caleb's fingers tightened around his soda cup, the plastic crinkling. I'm not running, he said, but the lie tasted sour. He took a sip to cover it. Just living. You know how it is here. Small town. Big expectations. Jasper's eyes narrowed, like he could see right through him. Yeah, I know. I've seen the way people look at you. Like you're a puzzle they can't solve. Caleb shifted, uncomfortable. He wasn't used to being seen. Not like this. Most people in Willow Creek saw what they wanted: a quiet kid, a good son, a disappointment. But Jasper looked at him like he was something worth figuring out. What about you? Caleb asked, deflecting. You said you're passing through. Where to next? Jasper shrugged, his gaze drifting to the crowd. Haven't decided. Maybe nowhere. Maybe everywhere. Depends on what I find worth sticking around for. His eyes flicked back to Caleb. And there it was again at spark. That pull. Caleb's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. A text from his mom. Dinner at 6. Don't be late. He sighed, the weight of home settling back on his shoulders. His parents were good people, but their love came with strings, expectations he'd never meet, no matter how hard he tried. You gotta go? Jasper asked, reading his expression. Yeah. Family stuff. Caleb hesitated, then added, You wanna hang out tomorrow? Maybe grab coffee or something. Jasper's smile was slow, deliberate. Only if you wear that Henley. Caleb laughed, the tension in his chest easing. Deal. The next day, Caleb found himself at the Daily Grind, a cozy coffee shop on Main Street. Jasper was already there, sprawled in a corner booth with a book in his hand, something by James Baldwin. Because of course Jasper read books that made Caleb feel like he needed to catch up. The sight of him, all easy confidence and quiet intensity, made Caleb's steps falter. Hey, Caleb said, sliding into the booth. "You're early. Couldn't wait to see you in that shirt," Jasper teased, his eyes sweeping over Caleb's black Henley. "Told you it looked good." Caleb flushed, busying himself with the menu. They ordered coffee black for Jasper, a caramel latte for Caleb, and fell into an easy rhythm, talking about music, movies, the way Willow Creek felt like a time capsule. But beneath the small talk, there was a current, a tension that made every glance feel like a confession. "You ever think about leaving?" Jasper asked suddenly, his voice low. "Like, for real. Not just dreaming about it." Caleb stared into his coffee, the question hitting too close. "All the time," he admitted. "But it's not that simple. My family, they need me here. My dad's got this hardware store, and he's grooming me to take it over. It's like my whole life's already planned out." Jasper leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "And what do you want?" "Caleb. Not your dad. Not your mom. You." Caleb's throat tightened. No one had ever asked him that, not in a way that felt like they cared about the answer. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe, to figure out who I am without all this noise." Jasper reached across the table, his hand brushing Caleb's wrist. It was brief, barely a touch, but it set Caleb's skin on fire. "You'll figure it out," Jasper said, his voice soft but certain. "And when you do, I want to be there to see it." The rest of the day passed in a blur. They wandered the town, Jasper pointing out quirks Caleb had never noticed: the faded mural on the library wall, the way the river caught the sunset just right. With Jasper, Willow Creek felt less like a cage and more like a place he could breathe. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Caleb felt the familiar dread creep in. He wasn't ready to go home, to face his parents' questions or the silence that always followed. "Walk me to my place," Jasper asked as they left the riverbank. His apartment was a tiny studio above the record store, a fact Caleb had learned from town gossip. "Sure," Caleb said, his voice steadier than he felt. The stairs to Jasper's place were narrow, the air thick with the scent of vinyl and dust. At the door, Jasper turned, his eyes catching the dim light from the hallway. "You want to come in?" Caleb's heart pounded. He knew what this moment was: an invitation, a crossroads. He wanted to say yes, to step into whatever this was with Jasper. But fear clawed at him, the weight of Willow Creek's eyes, his parents' prayers, his own doubts. I should get home," he said, hating himself for it. Jasper nodded, no judgment in his expression, just a quiet understanding. "Okay, but I'm not going anywhere." "Caleb." "Not yet." As Caleb walked home, the night air cool against his skin, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just turned away from something he'd been searching for his whole life. Sunday morning in Willow Creek meant church, and for Caleb, it meant suffocation. He sat in the pew, his tie too tight, his mother's hand resting on his arm like a reminder to stay in line. The pastor's sermon droned on about love and sacrifice, but all Caleb could think about was Jasper, his crooked smile, the way his voice felt like a secret meant just for him. After the service, his mom pulled him aside, her smile strained. "You've been distracted lately, Caleb. Is everything okay?" "Fine, Mom," he said, forcing a smile. "Just busy." She didn't push, but her eyes lingered, searching for the sun she thought she knew. Caleb excused himself, claiming he needed air, and slipped out to the church parking lot. His phone buzzed a text from Jasper: "Meet me at the record store. Got something to show you." Caleb's pulse quickened. He shouldn't go. He should stay, shake hands, play the part. But his feet were already moving, carrying him across town to the record store's neon sign. Jasper was behind the counter, sorting vinyls, his hair falling into his eyes. When he saw Caleb, his face lit up, and Caleb felt like he could breathe again. You came, Jasper said, like it was a surprise. You asked, Caleb replied, trying to sound casual. What's this thing you wanted to show me? Jasper grinned, pulling a record from under the counter. It was an old jazz album, the cover worn but vibrant. Found this in the back. Thought of you. Me? Caleb raised an eyebrow, taking the record. I'm not exactly a jazz guy. You could be, Jasper said, his voice teasing but warm. It's about feeling, not rules. Kinda like you. Caleb's cheeks burned, but he couldn't look away. Jasper had this way of saying things that made Caleb feel exposed, but not in a bad way, like he was being seen for the first time. They spent the afternoon in the store, Jasper playing tracks and telling stories about Chicago, about late-night gigs and crowded bars. Caleb listened, soaking it in, but part of him was distracted by the way Jasper's hands moved, the way his laugh filled the room. It was dangerous, this feeling, but Caleb couldn't stop himself from wanting more. You ever been in love? Jasper asked out of nowhere, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Caleb froze, the question catching him off guard. I don't know. Maybe. You. Jasper leaned back against the counter, his expression unreadable. Once. Didn't end well. But it taught me something. What's that? Caleb asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You don't let go of something real, Jasper said. Not even when it scares you. The words hung between them, heavy and true. Caleb wanted to say something, anything, but his throat felt tight. Instead, he reached for a record, pretending to read the label, but Jasper's hand caught his, gentle but firm. Caleb, Jasper said, his voice low. You don't have to hide with me. Caleb's heart raced, his hand trembling under Jasper's touch. He wanted to pull away, to run, but he didn't. He stayed, rooted to the spot, because for the first time in his life, he didn't want to hide. The door chimed, and a customer walked in, breaking the moment. Jasper let go, stepping back, but the air between them still crackled. Caleb stayed until closing, helping Jasper lock up, their conversation lighter but no less charged. When they parted ways, Jasper pressed the jazz record into Caleb's hands. Keep it, he said, and think about what I said. That night, Caleb lay in bed, the record on his nightstand, Jasper's words echoing in his head. He thought about love, about fear, about the life he'd been living and the one he wanted. For the first time, he let himself imagine a world where he didn't have to choose between who he was and who he loved. But Willow Creek wasn't that world, not yet. The next morning, Caleb woke to a text from his dad. Store needs you today. Don't be late. Duty called. But so did Jasper. And Caleb wasn't sure how long he could keep answering both. The hardware store smelled of sawdust and metal. A familiar prison. Caleb moved through the aisles, restocking screws and answering questions about paint. But his mind was elsewhere. Every clank of a hammer reminded him of Jasper's laugh. Every customer's voice a pale echo of his. His dad, a broad man with hands rough from years of work, clapped him on the shoulder. Good to have you here, son. This place is yours one day. Caleb nodded, the words sticking in his throat. He loved his dad, loved the store in a way, but it felt like a chain around his neck. He wanted more than Willow Creek, more than this life. He wanted Jasper. That evening, Jasper texted, "Meet me at the old quarry." 8 p.m. The quarry was on the edge of town, a place kids went to drink and dream, a place where secrets felt safe. Caleb told his parents he was meeting friends, the lie easier than he expected. The quarry was bathed in moonlight, the air cool and sharp. Jasper was already there, sitting on a flat rock, a blanket spread out beside him. He looked up as Caleb approached, his smile soft but electric. Thought you might not show, Jasper said, patting the blanket. Caleb sat, their shoulders brushing. I almost didn't. Family stuff. Jasper nodded, understanding. You're carrying a lot, aren't you? Caleb shrugged, staring at the dark water below. Guess so. It's just hard to be me here. Jasper's hand found his, fingers intertwining. Then be you with me. The words broke something in Caleb, a dam he'd built years ago. He turned to Jasper, their faces inches apart, and for once, he didn't look away. Jasper's eyes were steady, holding him, and when Jasper leaned in, Caleb met him halfway. The kiss was tentative at first, then desperate, years of want pouring out. It was everything Caleb had been afraid of and everything he'd ever needed. When they pulled apart, breathless, Jasper rested his forehead against Caleb's. I've wanted to do that since the fitting room, Jasper whispered. Caleb laughed, shaky but real. Me too. They stayed there, talking and kissing, the quarry their sanctuary. Jasper told Caleb about his life in Chicago, about coming out at 17, about the family that hadn't understood. Caleb shared his own story, the bullying, the prayers, the loneliness. With every word, he felt lighter, like he was shedding a skin he'd outgrown. But as midnight approached, reality crept back. Caleb's phone buzzed another text from his mom, checking in. He silenced it, but the guilt lingered. I don't know how to do this, Caleb admitted. Be with you, and still be here. Jasper squeezed his hand. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just don't run from it. Caleb nodded, but the fear was still there, a shadow he couldn't shake. When they parted ways, Jasper kissed him again, soft and sure, and Caleb carried that warmth home, even as the weight of Willow Creek settled back on his shoulders. The next week was a blur of stolen moments. Caleb and Jasper met at the coffee shop, the record store, the riverbank, anywhere they could be alone. Each touch, each glance, felt like a rebellion against Willow Creek's rules. But the town was small, and eyes were everywhere. Caleb noticed the whispers first at the diner, where he and Jasper grabbed lunch one afternoon. Old Mrs. Carter stared, her fork paused midair. By the time they left, Caleb's stomach was in knots, the weight of judgment heavier than ever. They're just curious, Jasper said, his tone light but his eyes sharp. Let them talk. Caleb wanted to believe him, but fear gnawed at him. He'd seen what happened to people who didn't fit in. Tommy Alvarez had left town after high school, driven out by rumors. Caleb wasn't sure he was strong enough for that. At home, things were worse. His dad caught him smiling at a text from Jasper and asked, "Who's got you so happy?" Caleb mumbled something about a friend, but his dad's eyes narrowed. Suspicious. That night, Caleb couldn't sleep. He lay awake, replaying Jasper's kiss, the way it felt like freedom. But freedom came at a cost, and Caleb wasn't sure he could pay it. The breaking point came on Friday. Caleb was at the hardware store, helping a customer, when his mom stormed in, her face pale. Caleb, we need to talk. Now. She pulled him into the back room, her hands shaking. People are talking. Caleb, they saw you with that boy from the record store. They're saying things. Caleb's heart sank. What things? Mom. Her eyes filled with tears. You know what things? Is it true? Are you like that? Caleb wanted to lie, to make it easy. But Jasper's words echoed in his head. You don't have to hide with me. Yeah, Mom, he said, his voice steady despite the fear. It's true. The silence that followed was deafening. His mom didn't yell, didn't cry. She just looked at him, like he was a stranger. We'll talk to Pastor John, she said finally. He'll help. Caleb shook his head. I don't need help, Mom. I need you to listen. But she didn't. She walked away, leaving Caleb alone with the weight of his truth. He texted Jasper, his hands shaking. Can we meet? Now. Jasper replied instantly, Quarry. I'm there. At the quarry, Jasper listened as Caleb poured out everything: the confrontation, the fear, the ache of disappointing his family. Jasper didn't interrupt, just held his hand, grounding him. You're enough, Caleb, Jasper said when he finished. Just as you are. And if they can't see that, it's their loss. Caleb wanted to believe him, but the doubt lingered. What if I lose them? Jasper's eyes were fierce. Then you build a new family, one that loves all of you. The words stayed with Caleb as he drove home, his heart torn between fear and hope. He didn't know what came next, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. The days that followed were a tightrope. Caleb's parents barely spoke to him, their silence louder than any argument. At the store, his dad kept him busy, as if work could fix what he saw as broken. Caleb went through the motions, but his mind was with Jasper. They met in secret now, careful to avoid prying eyes. The record store became their haven, its dim corners a refuge from the world. Jasper taught Caleb how to lose himself in music, how to find meaning in the spaces between notes. Each moment with him was a reminder that Caleb was more than Willow Creek's expectations. But secrets don't stay secret in a small town. A week later, Caleb's dad confronted him. I heard you're still seeing that boy, he said, his voice low and hard. You need to stop, Caleb, for your own good. Caleb's fists clenched. It's not about what's good for me. It's about what's true. His dad's face reddened. You think this is true? Sneaking around, throwing away your future. This isn't who we raised you to be. Maybe it's who I've always been. Caleb shot back, the words spilling out before he could stop them. I'm done pretending. His dad stared, stunned, then turned away. Get out, he said quietly. Don't come back until you've thought this through. Caleb left, his chest tight, and went straight to Jasper. He found him at the quarry, the place where everything had started to make sense. Jasper didn't ask questions, just pulled him into a hug, letting Caleb's tears soak into his shirt. I don't know what to do, Caleb whispered. They're my family. Jasper held him tighter. I know, but you're not alone. You've got me. They sat there until dawn, talking about dreams and fears, about the life they could build together. Jasper spoke of leaving Willow Creek, of finding a place where they could be themselves. Caleb listened, the idea both terrifying and thrilling. By morning, Caleb had made a decision. He couldn't stay in a place that asked him to be less than he was. But leaving meant risking everything: his family, his home, his past. He looked at Jasper, at the hope in his eyes, and knew it was a risk worth taking. Caleb packed a bag that night, his hands shaking as he folded the black Henley Jasper loved. He left a note for his parents, not expecting them to understand, but hoping they'd try. I'm sorry. I need to be me. I love you. He didn't know if they'd read it, but it was all he could offer. Jasper was waiting outside, his car packed with records and dreams. You sure? He asked, his voice soft. Caleb nodded, his heart pounding but sure. Yeah. Let's go. They drove west, the lights of Willow Creek fading in the rear view. Jasper's hand rested on Caleb's knee, a quiet promise. They didn't know where they'd end up, maybe Chicago, maybe somewhere new. But as the road stretched before them, Caleb felt free for the first time in his life. Months later, they settled in Portland, a city that felt like a deep breath. Caleb got a job at a bookstore, Jasper at a music venue. They built a life together, one filled with late-night talks and lazy mornings, with love that didn't need to hide. Caleb's parents called once, their voices hesitant but not angry. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. Caleb held on to that, knowing love took time to heal. One evening, as they walked through a park, Jasper stopped, his eyes bright. He dropped to his knees, just like he had in the fitting room. But this time, he held a ring. "Caleb," he said, his voice steady, "I want forever with you." Caleb's heart swelled, the weight of his past lighter now. "Yes," he whispered, pulling Jasper up, kissing him under the stars. They'd started in a fitting room, trying on clothes and finding something more. Now, they were trying on a life one that fit them both perfectly.